When Vi Higginson started Gospel for Teens, she had no intention of creating a therapy program for at-risk kids. And in fact, many of the teens who go don't seem to be at risk at all. They come from stable, intact, middle-class homes, like David Moses. Daryl and Veronica Moses sing with their children and make sure they're home for dinner as a family every night.
After your practice, you come straight home.
We have to raise our children. If we don't, someone else will. Meaning the streets, drugs, gangs, you name it.
Do you think it's harder to raise a young black teenager?
Yeah. I grew up in the projects, and I watched my father go through a lot to hold on to his family. And one of the reasons why you see me here, not just my wife, but you see me here also, is because I vowed that I would walk this walk with them. They can turn around years from now and say, my father was right there.
Gospel for Teens has a theme song. And Vi says she chose it for a reason.
I actually wept when I heard it. Don't let anybody ever tell you that you're anything less than beautiful.
What did it mean to you?
It means to me that I feel actually kind of special in a way.
That song is designed to empower you and to think about yourself differently than you think somebody else may have thought about you, to change your mind.
It certainly seemed to change something in Gabby Francois. Gabby, of all people, gets up and starts singing the song.
Surprised. I was surprised. I touched. I mean, she wanted to.
But what touched Vi even more was an email Gabby sent when the year was almost over, explaining what this place has meant to her. She read me the email.
I may seem quiet in class or upset, but it's only because I build up all my pain so I can sing it all out. My mother doesn't really appreciate the fact that I sing. I actually snuck out for the audition for Gospel for Teens. That's why you never see her around. Or my dad. Ms. Vi, you believed in me when no one else did. So I had to say.
My God, we had no idea what it meant to her.
She wanted you to know.
It's a big lesson for me, because if I had only looked at her surface, that judgment is so quick to dismiss. Out! I don't like your attitude.
Then one rainy Saturday in early May, just weeks before their final end-of-the-year performance, the kids and we walked into something none of us were expecting. We found a shaken Vi reversing her own policy and asking kids to bring their baggage in.
How many of you have lost somebody recently? Oh my God.
It seemed more hands were up than down.
I lost my cousin when I was going into my sophomore year.
His cousin was stabbed to death in front of him.
Smoking a year-old.
How old?
13.
13.
Drive-by.
The amount of violence and loss in so many of these young people's lives
He died at 19.
seemed to come as a shock to Vi. What prompted her to ask when she hadn't wanted to know? It was the news that David Moses' cousin had just died, a 15-year-old like David, killed by a gunshot to the head. Vi asked him to come before his classmates and sing it out.
He's been so good to me, but
even David Moses, with that wonderful close family, and his 15-year-old cousin died from a gunshot wound.
Oh,
He turned my
The music, the words are about struggle, and a lot of these kids are there. They're struggling.
they are struggling. We live in a violent society. So now, what do you do with all that? How do you get it off of you? How do you live? You have to go somewhere where there's sacred ground, where there's hope, where there's possibility, where there's a better life.
Which of course is exactly what gospel music was designed to provide in the first place. Do you tell the kids the history, how this music grew out of slavery?
I tell them that the first right as African Americans in this country was the right to sing. That was allowed during slavery. Before reading, writing, school, church, we could sing.
So as Gospel for Teens erupted on stage for their big spring concert before a packed hall, we're not sure how much the kids were thinking about this music's history. But for 2 hours, they sure captured its power. And when it came time for their theme song, Vi selected a surprise soloist.
I was so nervous because I looked at the crowd. I'm like, that's a lot of people.
Gabby Francois.
How can anyone ever tell you that you're anything less than beautiful? How can anyone ever tell you that you're less than?
How do you think she did?
I thought she was wonderful.
To notice
She needed to sing that song.
a miracle.
We wondered whether Gabby's parents had come to hear her sing this time. They had not.
To my soul.
What do you think about these kids whose parents never come?
I can only think that they do it anyway. With or without their parents, they do it anyway. So what does that say about who they are? Their commitment, their resilience, their drive, all of those things are necessary for success.
I gotta let them introduce themselves to you.
And then came that moment they'd been preparing for.
You know how I want you to say your name.
She didn't want them to just say their name. She wanted them to shout it, to belt it out. Because, she says, of who they are and where they've come from.
They're survivors. Stand up and let people see you. Be proud of the fact that you are survivors.
David Moses, 15, Brooklyn, New York. Chris Redfield, 16, Brooklyn, New York.
You're watching. And Rhonda, you know she's third next, second next.
I'm sitting on the edge of my seat.
Is she gonna do it?
And she gonna do it. She did it.
So you spend 9 months with these kids, you give them everything. And they finally get up for this performance.
I couldn't stay in my chair. My heart's dancing, my mind's racing, I'm watching everything and I'm watching everybody.
And what she and everyone else saw that day was a group of teenagers transformed.
I can't even describe it. It's the most wonderful thing I've ever been a part of in my life.
Are you gonna come back next year?
Definitely.
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 What's going on inside?
Joy. That's what's inside my heart all the time when I'm in here.
Do you ever think that you're actually saving some of these kids?
I guess I'm thinking that this music can make it better. It will make life better. It's victorious and it grabs you. I mean, it's like, yeah, I got you.